For this project, I picked up a Lazy Susan from a garage sale that I got for $1. And I took the backing off and then painted the front with Wise Owl chalk paint, the color Antique Villa. And it did need a good 3 coats to get it completely covered. And then while it was still wet, I took some paint, acrylic paint called Heritage Green, even though it looks like blue, and went back and forth a few times just to give it a little extra color. Then I took this vase that I had also picked up from a garage sale for $1. I really liked the color of it, and I kind of had pulled it off screen when I nipped it. But when I nipped it down the center, a chunk of it came off that I thought would be perfect for a vase, and the rest of it I nipped around it to use for petals for something else. So anyway, I placed this on top of the Lazy Susan, which is now just a round piece of wood, and I started placing flowers on it. Now the yellow flowers I'm using here are actually flowers I used in a previous video, the big sunflower window, and I had shaped a lot of those, then tumbled them, then painted them with the Krylon stained glass spray paint. The color was canary yellow. And a lot of this other glass that you see to the left of where I'm sitting is glass that I've actually cut up in previous videos and tumbled in my tumbler and then used for this project. Now in the beginning here, I'm just kind of experimenting with the different pieces of glass I have, shaping them into different kinds of flowers and seeing exactly what I want to do. And then after a few minutes, I decide I just want to use 3 colors, and I choose red, yellow, and amber, and I take everything else off and then go ahead and build on that with a couple more yellow flowers and another red flower, and then I kind of put the little amber ones in between. I also have put some jewelry in the center of the flowers. I like to use jewelry in a lot of the artwork that I do. Now all this glass and jewelry is all something that I've picked up at garage sales and thrift stores. Nothing is bought new. Also, all the glass used in this project has been tumbled except for the vase piece has not been tumbled. So next I get out my green glass to decide what I want to do for leaves, and I also get out some stained glass that I had previously tumbled, and then the thin glass that you see that's closest to me, the thin strings of glass, is called VITRIGRAPH glass. So I use a combination of both the tumbled stained glass and the VITRIGRAPH glass for the stems. So the next glass I use is actually glass I picked up from the Dollar Tree, so I really did buy something new, and these are $1.25, and it's a little over half a pound of glass. And I just put these little pieces of green glass in between some of the blank spots there because the leaves were just too big. I put a few leaves on, but used the little tiny pieces of glass after that. So next it was time for the resin. For this project I used art resin, and I did not video it. For some reason the camera shut off, but this is how I normally mix resin. So art resin is a 1-to-1 ratio resin. You pour both into the cup, equal amounts, and when you first pour it in, it's clear. When you start to mix it, it turns cloudy, and after about 3 minutes of mixing, it becomes clear again. The slower you mix it, the less bubbles you'll get. You're supposed to scrape the sides and the bottom to ensure thorough mixing while stirring. And like I said, after about 3 minutes, it's mixed and you're ready to pour it on your project. So typically I pour it over the glass first. If it's dark glass like this, I do put the resin right over the top, and all of this glass is dark enough, and like I said, it didn't film for part of it, but I did put the resin right over the top of the glass because if it's a very light glass, which like I say, sea glass or tumbled glass is already translucent enough as it is, and then you put resin over it, it'll make it more translucent. But these colors were dark enough alone, so it didn't matter. And I really like it when the glass is shiny, so I went ahead and poured resin all over everything. Next, I used the kitchen torch and went over all the different areas that had bubbles. And sometimes it can take up to 5 minutes. Sometimes you have to stop and relook at it. And you really have to get down eye level. Looking at it from the top is not good enough. You have to look at it eye level to make sure all the areas are covered and that you've gotten all the bubbles. I did end up adding more resin to a bunch of areas. I always mix up too much resin, it seems like. But I was doing another experiment over in my, let's see, in the left top part of the screen, I've written words with different markers. And I'm just going to pour some resin over that and see how that works out, because I'm kind of wondering if when I had problems with it, if it was because it hadn't dried for 24 hours, because I've been looking at it now and a lot of it isn't running. So, and this is dried for 2 days, the markers that I had on here, and I'll show you when I show you the finished product here. But anyway, I readjust some pieces of glass and put a little more resin on again. And so when you're done with your project, you have to let it sit for overnight, up to 24 hours to dry at room temperatures between 72 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit on a level surface. And if you have a board like this, you have to put little cups under it to hold it up, because the canvas will stick to the protective paper that you have below it. At the very end, I stuck a bunch of pieces of little green glass at the top of the vase. Hey everyone, all done. So all of the glass on here is all tumbled glass. So these and all of them except for these little amber flowers were all actually shaped glass. So up until a couple of months ago, I really didn't shape any glass at all. I just smashed it up, threw it in the tumbler, and however it came out, and I used those to make flower petals or whatever. So, you know, with the sunflower one, that might have been one of the first ones that I started actually shaping the glass and then throwing it in the tumbler, which is pretty cool. And then these I had actually shaped to possibly make roses out of, and I ended up with those, which I think are pretty. But anyway, all of this is tumbled glass except for this here. And I just want to warn you, you really, you know, I did pour resin over this, and it drips down around the bottom, and that protects you, you know, from cutting yourself. But some must not have got on the bottom, and after it had set, I was feeling around the bottom and ran my finger. Actually, I ran 2 different fingers along it, and it took me a minute to realize both of my fingers were bleeding. So you really have to make sure you get resin over all of those sharp corners, because you can really cut yourself lengthwise, not just points, but the whole you know, length of the flower or piece of glass. And then the other thing was this little green glass. I'm gonna pull it up front. The little green glass that I put in between the flowers and down in here, that is glass from the Dollar Tree. And I think that's so cool. I want to say they rarely have it, but every once in a while. So whenever I go into the Dollar Tree, I always go back where they have the vase filler stuff and you know, like the rocks and gravel and stuff like that, and those round gems. So somebody told me the name of them and I forget what it is. But anyway, I'll always look there, and they have those little bags, and it's $1.25 now for 8.5 ounces. So that's not bad, because you know that the fire glass online on Amazon is getting more and more expensive. It's up to like $39 for 10 pounds. And when I started buying it, it was under $30. So it's really gone up quite a bit. So if you can grab some of this, it's a good deal. Just look every time you go in. They just have it every once in a while. And anyway, all in all, I love the way it turned out. I love this round piece of wood. I knew I had to do something cool on it. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I hope you learned something. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel. If you want to be notified of future videos, subscribe. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.